this water or a mirage? Where are these people running to? The ponds have dried up, and these small pits in the pond are being guarded. How will these empty pots get filled? Who are these people thirsting thus for a mouthful of water? These are the residents of Dholera on the coast of the Gulf of Cambay, a region infamously known as Napania, meaning without water. Neither is this the struggle of a single village, nor is this a one-time drought. This is the water situation here as it exists every single summer day, year after year. In Gujarat, Dholera region is situated in Dhanduka Taluka of the Ahmedabad district. Just 40 years back, people remember having thick green forests of mangroves and pilu or Salvadora persica trees all along this coast. Large-scale cutting of mangroves for fodder, commercial use, and overgrazing of pilu trees by camels migrating from Kutch have resulted in the total denudation of this land. Due to seawater ingress and waterlogging, more and more land is getting washed out. Water evaporates, it leaves behind this salt and these cracks. The agricultural land too has become progressively unproductive, leading to recurrent crop failure. Finally, what has remained of this land are mirages, this strong wind blowing across the desert and a severe scarcity of drinking water. Only 10 feet beneath the land, pure salt is found, 3 times saltier than seawater. These shallow silted ponds become dry by February-March. Then, people start hunting for water in these dry ponds. What one gets from these shallow pits is brackish water, having salinity up to 3,000 to 4,000 parts per million. But people are thankful Even for this, after waiting for long hours, there would be a little water collected, and after few days, even that would cease, and a new hunt for water begins. By summer, with increasing water scarcity, water, a community resource, gets transformed into individual property, guarded day and night. It is difficult to believe that for a mouthful of muddy water, there have been serious conflicts in the community, which results only in increased indebtedness in order to settle the police cases. When the pits get exhausted, people transport water by carts from an equally unreliable source, such as this water around the leakage in the pipeline some 10 to 15 kilometers away. In summer, villages which do not have pipeline are supplied water through tankers by the government. But the water supplied through tankers is pitifully small and is hardly 6 to 8 liters per person per day, and not a thought for the cattle. The government's response to the problem about 20 years back was in the laying of the Ingoli pipeline, originating about 100 kilometers away from these tail-end villages of Dholera. With numerous leakages all along this pipeline, how much water is expected to reach to the other end? The government does not respond to us. How much water do you get? 2 pots only. Every day? Some day it comes, some days we have to go to the neighboring village. There are fights and people get injured. From the beginning, we have made the government aware of this problem, but they are doing nothing. In summer, it's all right if we only get food once a day, but we can't live without water. Are you from Mingalpur? Yes. Since when have you been having this problem? Since the time I came here 15 years ago, this problem has always been here. If they supply water by tanker, it is better. We only have to put down our pots, fill them up, and go home. All day we do laboring work, and then we have to come here like this for water. We have no time even to eat. It comes any time, day or night. What is the position in Rajpur village? This year, the village got connected to the pipeline, but so far, no water has come. So, where do you get water from? When the tanker comes, we get water. And if the tanker does not come, I have to go 5 kilometers to another village with my cart. Waterless troughs, empty tanks, and dried pipeline. Does this system have any meaning? And just 50 kilometers away on the same pipeline, isn't this a waste of water? Because there is no grass, 105 cattle died this year. There is no fixed time for the water. The water board is least bothered about our problems. Because of no water or grass, our cattle are dying and no one is there to even count them. The cattle population is very large in the area, as owning cattle is a status symbol. But a large number of cattle die every year in summer for want of water and fodder. Hence, the only alternative left with the people is to migrate with their cattle. With the migration of cattle, no milk is available for children. What remains is debt for the people in seeking to cure their children severely affected by waterborne diseases. More than 80% people are compelled to migrate for more than 8 months every year, leaving behind children and old people. Slowly, this leads to a disintegrated community. It was clear that unless the community organized itself to solve this crucial problem, there was no scope for any other development in this area. With the objective of organizing people for their development in 1981, a team of local people was set up by Utthan, a registered trust and society. It was named as Mahiti, which connotes exchange of information. Mahiti intensively got involved with people in solving their major problems. The team members of Mahiti, being mainly locals, began the process of organizing people around the major issues. Slowly, women and youth groups emerged, strongly organized around the drinking water issue. In extensive interaction with people, scientists, government officials, individuals, and other concerned agencies gave rise to a number of ideas for various experiments and demonstrations. At last, a viable alternative was found. The alternative of conserving rainwater in the lined ponds was thought of by the people. A truly decentralized water supply system, which was a combination of traditional storage along with modern conservation principles. Strong efforts were made by the village-level organizations, especially by the women's groups, to stop large-scale migration. To present their alternative and get the necessary support from government, in 1986-87, about 80% of the people stayed back in 7 villages for constructing these ponds. After about 3 to 4 months of unemployment, finally, the funds for excavation of the ponds came from the NREP, that is, National Rural Employment Program, under scarcity work for these 7 villages. How much do you get daily? 11 rupees. What is different about these ponds? It's lined with plastic. This is the first instance in this area where people have got complete funds for their own plan from the government. It was not just the excavation to be done. There were various other skills and practices which people had to learn and adopt as well. The making of such a slope as this was never done so methodically in this area before. Mahiti team and the people continuously interacted and made necessary suggestions. There was no contractor for this work. An experienced engineer was appointed for the technical input. These black plastic sheets seen are part of the modern water conservation principle. These long sheets, completely spread over the bottom and the sides of the ponds, would not only prevent the seepage of rainwater into the ground, but also the salinity from the ground, polluting the good water in the pond. Young boys from the villages were trained in joining the plastic sheets through heat sealing. This training was imparted by IPCL, Indian Petrochemicals Limited, Vadodara. The idea had received a positive encouragement from CAPAT, the Council for Advancement of People's Action and Rural Technology, who gave complete funds for lining of all the ponds. The major responsibility of organizing and supervising the work and material was that of the village-level women's and youth groups. For the protection of the pond and water, a system of slow sand filter was adopted. This has been constructed outside the pond so that people could take filtered water by hand pump. This filter is also connected to the cattle trough on the side. The filter is connected to the pond by this underground pipe. But how did all this begin? A few people during the course of migration had worked in the lining of the irrigation canals. They saw that in the canals, plastic or agrifilm was put, and on that, the pitching work of bricks and cement was done to conserve water. They felt that if a similar thing was tried in our village ponds, then we would also be able to save some good water. We got all the people of the village together. But many people were skeptical about this idea that plastic would stop salinity from the ground. Some people said that you have been talking about such ideas because you don't want to bring work, you are just fooling us. There is an organization called IPCL in Baroda which manufactures this plastic. We got complete information from them. Their engineers helped us at various stages of planning and implementation. With assistance from IPCL, the first experiment to conserve rainwater for drinking purpose was done in 1983-84. It was done on Mahiti's demonstration center, where different ideas from people and scientists are tried out and propagated in the surrounding villages. The Aga Khan Foundation supported this experiment. Since then, it has been one of the main supporters of Mahiti team and its various demonstrations. In 1985, the first village to adopt this technology for their own village pond was Rahatala. In the summer of 1986, when all the ponds dried up in the surrounding villages, this pond was the only source of water for people and cattle in that entire area. A team from the Technology Mission Delhi on drinking water visited Rahatala, and finally the scheme was approved for 7 of the coastal villages of Dholera region. Soon after this, the implementation of the project began in January 1987. It would be interesting to know how the women of this area regard their involvement and experiences in this whole project. There were a lot of problems in excavation involving corruption, mainly by the government supervisors, Karkuns and other village leaders. The women's group has been able to take a strong stand against it. There was also a problem in the selection of site. The Sarpanch, the village leader, said it should be done at one place, and the women and people had suggested another site. The Sarpanch and his men went to the government, and the women with some men also went to the officials. Finally, the site selected by women and the village was technically approved by engineers, and the work started there. When somebody complained to me about corruption in the pond, I went there. I asked those people not to do so, but they abused me and tried to beat me up. I came back home. Then the women's group sent a complaint to the government, but these same people came and apologized. So we decided not to take any action against them. After all the efforts and problems faced, people eagerly waited for rains to fill up these ponds. Instead, there came the severe drought of 1987. This is the lined pond of Mahadevpura, having about 7 feet of water. How did this happen when rain almost completely failed in all these 7 villages? According to our experience, we had identified a depression where the fresh rainwater gets collected. We decided to dig a channel and bring this water to this pond. It is about 2 to 3 kilometers away from this pond. There was some rain there, and hence the water was collected. It was a very difficult task, but all the people of the village worked day and night for several days and finally brought this water to the pond. No funds came from outside. We did it completely ourselves. Had this pond not been lined, the water would have become saline at the source as well as in the pond. With 7 to 8 feet of water in their pond, Mahadevpura would have had a supply of water for about a year. Instead, they decided to hold a cattle camp for about 5 to 7 villages in their own village. A beginning has been made. A beginning towards building a future having great hope and potential.